Hey there, it's author and attorney Kelly O'Connell from Knockout Podcasts. Hope you're well, and appreciate you tuning in. Don't forget to hit the subscribe and give me a thumbs up on the piece if you liked it today. We are talking about something that's occurred to me that I think that you're not going to be able to disagree with, even if you're so far to the left. You make Chairman Mao look like Ronald Reagan. But it's the idea that if it wasn't for Trump and the way that the Democrats reacted to Trump, we wouldn't have this disaster today in Afghanistan, because in their extreme need to get rid of Trump, they picked somebody that they thought would win for sure, which was Joe Biden. And then Joe Biden chose Kamala Harris because she was female, she was black, multiracial, everything. And so when they won, they were stuck in the vehicle that they drove out in, of course. And now Joe Biden has made a disaster of Afghanistan, but it's really exposed fault lines all across the Democratic Party. And it looks pretty grim for the Democrats, I think. And the self-righteous, this thing that we had gotten into in America in the last decade or two, of pretending that, you know, the Democrats are cool, they're woke, they're with the good guys, they're progressive, the things that they want to get changed are they're novel and they're true. And what the Republicans stand for is all these terrible things from the past, and therefore you've just got to look down and talk down to Republicans, including the Democrats. And I think this disaster in Afghanistan has really exposed the values of the Democrats. They don't have any other than power. And it has also exposed a lot of the mendacious members of Congress, like Pelosi and Schumer and all these people who would do anything. They'd sell their own grandmother on eBay to get one extra House seat or senator. And they were so high riding in the seat of power, and at the same time, through the bad decisions of Biden and the terrible look that Kamala had, the result was that they were starting to lose their grip. And I don't think even really knew it, that Biden was coming down in points. But now Biden is at 41%. He's got to be in the 30s now. He just seems so weak. And they're following the original plan that he made that started the disaster. And he's not doing anything to expand the time, go back into Bagram Airport, Bagram Air Force Base, and to take that over again and start bringing people over. That's probably the only safe way to get people into planes now, is through Bagram. We wouldn't have to do it through the Taliban. We would just go back and take back the field, and then we would retake the roads and line the roads with our military and our planes and our howitzers and our heavy guns and our light guns and snipers everywhere. And we would just move bus after bus of American and Afghan allies over to Bagram and fly them out there, and it would take all the pressure off. But, you know, Biden is really mastered by the circumstances. He's really been beaten down by this. And the strange thing is that none of the talent in the Democrats' House seems to be able to come up with a good remedy for getting out of there. And it's got everybody on pins and needles. And, you know, the people in the media, even on the left, are criticizing Biden. Now they're trying to come up with some sort of a story, some sort of a version, some sort of a talking point that would ultimately lay much of the problem at Trump's feet. And the problem with that is that every point that they make is kind of self-refuting. You know, Biden picked up this plan from Trump, okay, he picked it up, he got it in January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September. 9 months later, he could have had 100 new plans. And what it really seems like is that they didn't really have a plan. What they had is announcements. They had dates. We're leaving on this date. Everything is going to be gone. These group of people are going to be out of Afghanistan on this date. All they had was a calendar. They didn't have any plans because anybody, even a kid, even a high school kid, could see the dangers out there and come up with something better than Biden. That's the true mystery of the story. So, in any event, here's this article, which is going to be in Canada Free Press tomorrow. Kabul Catastrophe. Did Democrats finally destroy themselves with Trump ruination fixation? And so the question there is, wasn't it the cause of all this that the Democrats turned Donald Trump into a devil? They turned him into a Satan. They turned him into the Antichrist, into Hitler. And by doing that, they took their eye off the prize. They took their eye off the road. They went off the road in trying to get him. And as a result of wanting to get him, they allowed Joe Biden to come in and be their master. And if your master is a fool, you're in a lot of trouble, right? So, but for Trump, Dems would have never run a mediocre dementia patient just for power. So, here it is. Horrible Joe results of Trump. It's inconceivable that a candidate as unexceptional and depleted as old Joe Biden would be chosen as the presidential candidate for a mainstream party. And yet it was the cult of the anti-Trump which necessitated this. During the Trump presidency, the Democrats chose their way of responding to Trump with all of his charisma, his success, his charm, his ideas, his doggedness, his can-do mentality. They were so overwhelmed by that idea. I mean, this guy was had a number one show for so many years. So they decided not to oppose him on policies. Instead, they decided to brand him as a Satan, as a Neo-Hitler, as an Antichrist. And so this one decision, I believe, because it was so unjust and it was so based in fear, and it was based in gotcha, it was based in this idea that you can cheat. You're in a game and you can cheat during every hand, during every turn. And so what they did is they got the media to back them, and they got all these politicians to back them, old ones and new ones. They got people in the academia. They got famous celebrities all to come down on Trump. And it gave the illusion that Trump was truly a world-class bad person. And so their decision to resist Donald by propaganda via media on one hand and by total resistance of all his policies on the other was extremely, extremely explosive. Now, you can see that in terms of bottom line numbers for CNN. Their viewership is down 75% since Trump disappeared. So they hated his guts and they wanted to kill him, but they needed him to survive. And it's true of all of these channels. But let me ask you something. It's been a year after the election, we're in August, September, October, November, so about 3/4 of a year, 80% of a year. Let me ask you this. Can you deny that this short-term strategy, well, number one, do you accept that Biden's a successful leader? No? I hear you shouting no. So they yoked together a mentally spent political fossil with a California biracial female lightweight. Can you deny it's blown up in their collective faces? And who can possibly claim Trump was a worse person or president than Biden now? When did Trump ever say, we're going to do this and we don't care how many people are killed? When did Trump ever say that I'm going to make this plan on the back of a napkin and it doesn't matter if it works because it'll work? So in 1 week, they've rejuvenated, they've rehabilitated Donald Trump in a way that I didn't think was possible. Now, think about this part, my dear friends, poetic justice. Now, isn't it funny how pathological liars like Nancy Pelosi and the Democrat Party's full stable of psychopaths teamed up with mentally incapacitated Biden? And then they assembled America's worst presidential cabinet in history who demanded woke policies over competence. The mainstream media, entertainment industry, and many greats from both sides decided they'd die on the Hill opposing Trump. And you can remember how many famous people had to at some point in a performance, or out in public, they had to come out and align themselves with the anti-Trumpers and say how much they hated Trump and what a lunatic he was, and he was a tyrant, and all of this stuff. Was it true? Well, a year later, does it look to be true? I mean, Trump's not perfect, but the claim was not that they're running him because they thought he was perfect. Trump was successful to the extent that he focused on his policies. So, after the fall of Kabul and exposure of Biden's cruelly incompetent plans, not caring if people got blown up, it was not relevant to him. The Americans could get at home on their own. Understand that Joe Biden said to himself, if he said anything at all, we're going to pull out the military and then we're going to trust the Taliban to get the Americans home. That's crazy, isn't it? Isn't it also mean? Isn't it also cruel? They shut down Bagram Air Force Base, which was the only secure airport in the area. And you know what else they did over there? They let loose something like, was it 1,000? Was it 5,000? I can't remember. I think it was at least 1,000 of the worst people in Afghanistan that were in that military prison being held for war crimes. So when they left, when they went to turn off the lights, did they have to ask the Afghanis if they wanted to keep those people in prison? No, they just opened up the door. That one decision, so many of these decisions, even a single one of them would show a bad heart, an evil, rancid heart. Evil intention or just total craziness on the part of Joe. So, but after the fall of Kabul, the Dems lurched toward oblivion with their extraordinary hollowness exposed for all the world to see. It's an ignoble, rancid, soul-searching sight, dear friends. Soul-searing sight, not searching, but you got to search your heart and your soul and your mind to try to figure out what happened. Now, can the Dems survive Kabul, I ask you? How did the Democrats arise from the ashes of this debacle when everything they did was a horrible mistake, and the worst part of it was that their entire history of claiming they cared about other people, the weak, the sick, the people that most needed help, is exposed as a lie? Well, the answer is they can't recover. It's too late for a come to Jesus moment within their party because these righteous Marxist zombies and inflamed zealots now publicly brawl for socialism, led by Pelosi and AOC, demanding massive social reorganization, trying to drown the old America. Think about it. They're trying to kill old America. We're trying to get out of Afghanistan with as few deaths as possible, and they're distracted by trying to kill the old America. That's why, Biden has been left on his own somehow, even though they know he's demented. And I mean, literally, physically demented. His brain's in dementia. So for any hope of resurrection, the Dems must purge the truly radical elements, which they can't bear to do because they see him as heroes, the Bernies, the Pelosi's, the AOC's, and remove all the senior leadership such as Pelosi and Schumer, then start rebuilding with a new platform not based on woke, redistribution of wealth, anti-capitalism, anti-Trump. Leftists won't create paradise out of the ruins of America, by the way. They never could. Instead, if they succeeded, they'd simply kill liberty for the entire world. So, truth time. Let's get back to basics. We've been spending the last few years arguing about being woke, racism, about redistribution of wealth, about how whites are the chief devils in the world and all this. We've really come apart as a nation, and we had a year of rioting that the Democrats apparently just loved. They wouldn't criticize it. Now a lot of downtown areas across the United States are boarded up, burned, and somehow the Dems see that working for them. I mean, I don't think it does, but they do. So, Democrat attacks against Trump, think about it. They started before his inauguration. They had people, especially the people that were in this cabal that were fighting against him from the Department of Justice and the FBI and such. This guy, Brennan, said that we are not going to be overtaken by your evil, basically. And so their attack about Russia was disproved. There were 2 impeachment. He beat them both. The Democrats were not thinking about policy. They were doing their total resistance routine, but it finally backfired. And it's backfiring now. Now people are saying, after the dust is starting to settle from Kabul, that it was Trump who was the good guy and the Democrats who were bad. Following fork-tongued, serpent-haired, termagant Pelosi and her furiously hissing, sanctimonious anti-Trump rhetoric, lemming Democrats committed Harry Carey. They abandoned creating policies to aid Americans and only strategized to hobble Donald John Trump. If he wanted to do something, well, it was bad by definition. So now their inane hijinks are exposed and there is no plan B. With a dementia-addled president and a teenage-brained vice president, what can the Dems possibly do now? They already swore that that Biden was mentally competent. So what do they blame this all on? They're trying to blame it on Trump, but it's not working. With this crazy actions, they took out a mortgage, went to Vegas, bet it all on black, and now are nationally bankrupted. They sold their soul for a handful of magic beans and just ended up with a bad case of gas. Probably the worst performance of any major party in America's history. So we need a GOP revival. Parties do matter. So now the Republicans need to get to work on taking advantage of all the mistakes to make Democrats really pay this time for their evil deeds, which they did not do after the FBI, DOJ, Obama-Biden collusion was exposed. We must start working for 2022 and 2024. This may be the last election to save America. If God exposed the idiocy of the Democrats for a purpose, then it's time to act on that now. Fiat lux, or as they say, let there be light. Now, let's get to some weird news. All right, so we got from the New York Post, and August 27th, so 2 days ago, Texas homeowner strikes burglar in the face with a machete. And a machete-wielding homeowner in Texas in El Paso, right down the street, seriously injured a suspect who attempted to break into his home. The guy heard the glass breaking at about 4 o'clock in the morning, went outside and found a man holding a metal rod breaking the front windows of his house. Armed with a machete, the homeowner told the man to leave, but a confrontation ensued. Homeowner struck the intruder in the face with the machete and identified as Carlos Esteban via excusa. He needs a pretty good excusa for this one. 22. Then he ran from responding police officers, but was arrested after jumping a neighbor's fence. They found he had broken in to another place. So they had to go and take him to the hospital before they could book him in. His nose has a big plaster on it, or a bunch of Band-Aids on it, and then across the bridge of his nose, I'm sorry, but it looks like somebody hit him with a machete. Anyway, best of luck to that guy. Brothers claim mother, sister are buried in backyard of feces-covered home. August 27, 2021. And Illinois brothers buried bodies of their sister and mother in the family's backyard, and they told the cops that the sister had pushed the mom down the stairs and she had died years ago. And so she was buried in the back. And the sister just died of COVID, but it was a little bit before COVID started, 2019. In the home were multiple liters of urine, no running toilets, every room, the front, back, door completely barricaded with debris. And so welfare check caused the cops to go there. And anyway, it's looking like these guys are going to have a tough time making bail or beating the charges. And so here's one more. Alleged Penn Station gunman held on bail after calling Judge Bro, August 27th, 2021. Gunman allegedly shooting an innocent commuter outside of the Penn Station earlier this week was held on bail Friday after calling a Manhattan judge Bro at his arraignment. Marvin Bruce, wearing gray sweatpants and a blue hoodie, appeared in Manhattan's criminal court before Judge Zuo Wang. You can guess what country his family originates from. Good afternoon, bro. This 27-year-old greeted the judge moments after the arraignment started. The judge didn't appreciate that. The gunman allegedly shot a 58-year-old innocent bystander in the leg of a bustling commuter terminal and shattered the victims of femur and had to have emergency surgery. So anyway, there's another guy he's probably mentally ill too. All right, so thanks for tuning in. We have got to get these people out of office. We have got to get Biden and Kamala out of office. We got to get the Dems out of top leadership. They can't be trusted to do anything. They went back on all kinds of agreements with NATO and with people who are willing to risk the blood and spill the blood of their own children to help us. Excuse me. Got to get them out of there. Now, Nancy Pelosi was asked about it, and she said, just stuff happens. Blank happens. We got to get these people out of there. This is our opportunity. It was delivered. It was delivered by God, and we got to take advantage of it. Thanks a lot. Hope you have a great day. Kelly O'Connell. And hit that subscribe and the thumbs up, and have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining me. It was the high spot of my whole day to hang out with you. Ciao.